Hey, what's up guys? Vivo's Nexus changed the selfie game with its telescoping camera, and this year the flagship tech has migrated to the mid-range V15 Pro, along with some other cutting-edge features. I'm Will for GSM Arena, and this is our Vivo V15 Pro review. The Vivo V15 Pro is definitely a nice looking device, though its construction is a bit of a mystery. The curved back looks like glass, but it doesn't quite feel like it, so it's probably some sort of plastic. Our topaz blue model is quite stunning. It's a smooth gradient color scheme, with a subtle striped pattern beneath the surface. There is quite a large camera bump though, which may not be to everyone's taste, especially if you like using the phone on a table or desk. Thankfully, there's a hefty plastic case included in the box to solve that problem. Without the case, the phone feels razor thin thanks to the tapered sides. It seems sturdy, but the display is covered by normal glass, not Gorilla Glass, so it may be more prone to scratches. Too bad. The display is one of the main attractions of the V15 Pro. It's a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED with a tall aspect ratio, and it's nearly bezel-less. There's no notch cutout or even a selfie camera in sight. Thanks to the telescoping mechanism, the selfie cam stays hidden in the body until you need to use it, and when you do, it appears quite quickly, faster than the one on the Vivo Nexus. Just keep in mind that as with all mechanisms with moving parts, there's a greater chance for it to break, or just to get dust or grime stuck inside. Needless to say, this phone isn't IP rated. The screen reaps all the benefits though. It's truly edge to edge. At 1080p, content looks good. It's decently sharp, with those deep AMOLED blacks. Color accuracy isn't its strong suit, but it's fine. Maximum brightness is okay too, at 429 nits. Sunlight legibility isn't great, but the V15 Pro does fine outdoors in most scenarios. As an AMOLED, you do get the option for an always-on display to show time and notifications. Pretty handy, though of course it does use more power. The V15 Pro has an under-display fingerprint reader for unlocking. It's faster than the one on the Nexus, though not quite as fast as the OnePlus 6T. It's not always on either. If the phone is asleep, you have to tap the screen to activate the reader first. You can also use Face Unlock with a telescoping camera. It's surprisingly fast. The camera module is so zippy that it feels the same as Face Unlock on other phones. Storage is expandable on the V15 Pro, on top of the 128 gigs built in. There are actually two card slots, one on the side dedicated to microSD, and one on the bottom for your dual SIM. It's strange that on a phone with so many cutting-edge features, you still get an old-school micro USB port at the bottom, instead of USB-C. But at least you get a headphone jack. Sound through headphones is okay, but we measured some distortion and only average loudness. There is FM radio though. If you switch to the single bottom firing loudspeaker, performance is again just average, both in loudness and sound quality. The Vivo V15 Pro runs FunTouch OS 9 based on Android 9 Pie. Rather than stock Android, it offers more of an iOS-like experience. For instance, swiping from the top won't bring down the quick toggles, but instead just shows you notifications. To get to the quick toggles, you need to swipe up from the bottom. All of the apps are kept on the home screen. No option for an app drawer here. There are a bunch of different home screen transitions to choose from, to spice things up. And there are plenty of themes available to download from the iThemes store too. You can opt for gesture-based navigation to get around. Swiping up from the center and holding goes to recent apps. Swiping from one of the two sides will take you back, depending on which you chose. And swiping up from the other will open the quick toggles. Swiping up from the center takes you home. The Vivo V15 Pro is one of the first phones with Qualcomm's new Snapdragon 675 chipset, and it comes with 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. In CPU benchmarks, it's awesome, blowing the other mid-range chips out of the water, including the Snapdragon 710. It runs cool too. It's not quite as impressive in GPU scores, but still great, performing just a little better than the Snapdragon 660. And since the chipset is power efficient, the V15 has good battery life too. With its 3700 mAh battery, it scored an endurance rating of 92 hours in our proprietary tests. When it comes to charging, we weren't quite as impressed though. Despite the advertised dual-engine fast charging, it only managed to fill up the battery from 0 to 38% in 30 minutes. The Vivo V15 Pro comes with a triple camera setup. Alongside the depth sensor and the 8-megapixel ultra-wide cam sits a 48-megapixel main camera with an f1.8 aperture and phase detection autofocus. As a quad-Bayer sensor, it saves images at 12 megapixels by default, and though you can opt for 48 megapixels, that doesn't improve quality at all. In good light, 12 megapixel photos from the main cam are sharp and detailed, with accurate color reproduction, nice contrast, and good dynamic range. We did find occasional noise in the sky or near edges of buildings, but nothing much to complain about. Turning on the AI mode is only recommended if you think you need some extra colors in your scene. It's maybe a bit over the top. The ultra-wide camera is a nice option to have in certain situations, but the lack of autofocus, lower dynamic range, and rather low 8 megapixel resolution could potentially ruin the photo. We were impressed by the barrel distortion correction at the edges though. Lines come out mostly straight. Portrait shots have natural colors and good detail. However, they leave a lot to be desired as far as edge detection goes. Now on to low-light photos. These are actually quite good. Noise is limited, highlights and shadows are nice, and there's a decent amount of detail. There is a night mode you can enable, which results in a brighter exposure and highlight and shadow recovery, but you lose some fine details. The Selfie Cam has a 32 megapixel sensor and an f2.0 lens, once again using tetra pixel binning technology. Selfies are awesome. There's natural colors, great detail, and wide dynamic range. We aren't fans of the portrait selfies. The HDR doesn't work in this mode, and the edge detection isn't all that good. Video can be recorded in up to 4K at 30 FPS. You can expect a good amount of detail, nice contrast, and minimal noise, but dynamic range is lacking, and there's no electronic stabilization in 4K.
The biggest issue we had was with the sound recording. It sounds compressed and unnatural, and actually pretty disappointing. But anyway, let's get back to the studio.
So let's wrap things up. The Vivo V15 Pro brings some standout features that you won't find in most other mid-range phones. There's a high-performance chipset, a bezel-less notchless AMOLED screen, a fast under-display fingerprint reader, great battery life, and a nice camera for photos and selfies. However, it's not all sunshine. We still have a micro USB port instead of USB-C. Audio quality when recording really isn't good. If you love to shoot concerts, then maybe this one isn't for you. And with its similarities to iOS, the FunTouch UI is a bit strange compared to other Android interfaces. Also, there's availability. The phone is mainly going to be available in India, so if you want to get your hands on it elsewhere, you may have to buy an import. But the biggest thing holding back the V15 Pro is the price. For 29,000 rupees, around 400 bucks, it's more expensive than a lot of the competition these days. But again, it does bring a lot of unique, high-tech features to the table, so it still earns our recommendation, and it'll definitely be a stronger one once the price does go down. Thanks for watching. If you're curious about the full test findings of the V15 Pro, or want to compare it to some other phones, you can click the link to gsmarena.com in the description below. See ya!